Getting a tray of ice cubes. What for? He says, well, if you've been out on a night like that, I mean, man, you got to find somewhere to wake up.
Paul and I come from the same seed in terms of how we came into the business. We came through theater in New York. So craft is important, therefore we approach our roles in very much the same way. Seriously crafting the character and being in character, playing the character, despite whatever of your own self is going to show up, you're playing a character. So we take that seriously, so we're committed to delivering the characters to the story and not going off track like you're a personality or a celebrity where you feel you're being hired as a personality, so you give them personality no matter what the script of the story is doing. That's not who we are. On the other hand, your own whatever is there. So I think that is what, you know, what the relationship that Paul and I have in real life is going to show up somehow on the screen, even though our characters are different. I was a much younger guy than he was. He was kind of washed up. I was just a brash kid that didn't have any experience. He was my mentor.
Can't do it alone, you know. Takes a mob of guys like you and enough money to make them look good.
I know plenty of guys.
It's not like playing winos in the street. You can't outrun
I never played for no winos.
You gotta keep his con even after you take his money. He can't know you took him.
You're scared of him.
What I think connected us was just the fun that we had working together probably showed up in the characters, even though there was a lot of adversarial stuff in it. He was giving me a hard time, I was giving him a hard time. But I think that underneath that, the enjoyment of giving each other a hard time probably had some benefit.
You're gonna go for him.
Just don't want a hothead looking to get even coming back halfway through saying it ain't enough because it's all we're gonna get.
They both had a Porsche parked right out of the stage door. And when they weren't shooting a scene, either one of them or both of them were out there polishing that thing with a rag. I think one time he found the key, got the keys to Redford's Porsche, and went out and took it and hid it. And I think Redford said, I knew one day somebody was going to steal my car.
I go out and I do this sting. Meeting Paul Newman was, wow. You know,
we did
the scene together and I said,
canal.
Paul Newman, I thought there was going to be something. You know, there's nothing. I tore him up. Well, when it came out on the screen, you couldn't get your eyes off Paul Newman, and I'm trying to look at myself, and I can't. He was incredible.
He's there. Let's get on it. 5 to 1. How's it going? Nothing yet. I had a good one on the lead at Lincoln Fields, but he faded.
I did not give any particular or special treatment to J.J. Singleton, except what came out of the rehearsals and what was coming out of George, and especially what was coming out of Redford and Newman. For example, I had on a pair of dark glasses during the rehearsal, sitting around the table. Redford said, hey, that's a great touch, those sunglasses. I said, well, I'm just wearing them now. I don't intend to wear them in a picture. He said, oh, that's too bad, because it's a good touch.
He usually plays with a tally-ho fan or a tally-ho circle. I got you one of each. He likes to cold deck low, 8s or 9s.
That's nice work, J.J.
I didn't do any special work. I tell you, that screenplay was so well written, you didn't have to go far afield.
The material itself was so original, and it was such a, I mean, it's not a rehash of an old idea. It's, I guess the hustle is something that you can say, well, it happened in the hustle, but this was such a beautifully designed, and or it was like the variety that you would be allowed if you were a great pianist playing Mozart. I mean, it was classic, what you had to start with. So what you're left with then is the little modulations that, but it was already a great piece of work by the time it was on the printed page.
You can forget the boodle, Eddie. He could hit us for 15 grand at 4 to 1. We can't handle that. We'll give him the shutout.
Worked very hard to get the period lingo right. I wanted them to sound like they were speaking almost a secret language, which confidence men really had.
We checked the story with a tipster. It was cleaned by 2 grifters.
They had a language that was so much their own that they could literally carry on a conversation and you would have no idea what they were talking about. I couldn't do that in the movie because I wanted the audience to understand what they were saying, but I tried to sprinkle in enough argot so that you had a sense that they were talking like people who had their own language would talk, and that hopefully you would understand the meaning of what they were saying from the context.
Gundorf is setting up a wire store on the north side. I'm going to need a 20-man boost right away.
I got plenty of talent out there tonight. You could take your pick.
This is a tough one, Dookie. These boys have got to be the quill.
A lot of the slang, you can figure out the meaning from the word. Quill happens to be one that isn't quite so obvious. I don't know why quill means the best. I don't know what the derivation of that is, but that was, in their language, quill meant top drawer.
Hey, Hooker! Come on!
The first time that I had to chase Robert down an alley,
Oh, hi there, Snyder.
I never had a lean and hungry look, even when I was starving to death. So I didn't look like I could move. And he took off, but he was running at it like at a leisurely pace. Well, I caught him. And he said to George, "Can we do that again?" So he took off, and I said, I couldn't catch him in a month.
You're a smart egg, Hooker. No sense getting dead over $2,000.
He was a guy who had to be out front, and you could see that about Robert. He was very ambitious and in everything. He was very competitive about everything. Playing cards, he was competitive, you know, and it's something I like and admire because I don't have that myself. I don't have that kind of competitiveness.
You the owner here?
That's right.
It was one of the earlier scenes that I was doing. We were good friends, and she helped me a lot. She made it easy for me. So when I saw her, I knew that I was going to be all right. And then the other actors, all the other actors that worked in that scene, I had worked with or had known in New York. So it was like being home.
Set me up 5 more beers, will you, Danny?
I know what Charlie's talking about. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be open when you're doing your work. You have to be. Otherwise, it's dead. Quite, you know. It's not just boring, it's dead.
Looking for a guy.
And you have to be alive. For instance, that moment with Charlie when he poured the drink. That was one take.
All right if I look around in here?
That he did that, and it was something that happened out of the moment that was between us.
That was an accident. I was supposed to turn it over. Just turn it over on the bar, but her hand was there, so I poured it on her hand, you know, and then threw it down. So that's a good idea, you know, when I think of her, rather than just when I think of the liquor.
I don't really need your permission.
And she just
Visita mi canal.
wiping me off.
If you notice in the Sting, people are aware of the music, but one of the reasons they're aware of it, there's hardly any underscore, and it's very important for people to understand. Underscore is music that's played under dialogue. Something's going on, people are talking, and there's underscore. 98% of the music in the Sting, no one's talking, so you get the music really played, and you really can listen to it. And I think that's one of the reasons it had such a great impact, because the music could really be heard.
There's the mechanics of the actual con game as it plays out with Lonergan, and then there's the mechanics of what the audience knows, which sort of provides the raw material for conning them. The hardest thing for me as the writer was combining those two so that they didn't either contradict each other or interfere with each other. That was what took me so long, really. That's why it took me a year to write that script.
Sorry I'm late, guys. I was taking a crap. The name's Shaw.
It was a very easy scene, and what I did in it from take to take varied considerably. But the one that they used was the one in which Golpe just goes nuts with delight.
Don't worry about it, pal.
They wouldn't let you in here if you weren't a chump.
Mr. Clayton, I think we should take a break for 5 minutes. Tempers seem to be running a little high.
Oh, come on, Linneman. I was just starting to do good.
He just had the arrogance to not only beat the guy at his own game, but to just take the sword and kind of move it around in there and wrangle it in there and see what he could get. But that's when acting is fun.
3 10s. Tough luck, on hand. But that's what you get for playing with your head up your ass. A couple more like that, we can all go to bed early.
Name's Lonergan. Doyle Lonergan. You're gonna remember that, Mr. Shaw. You're gonna get yourself another game. You follow?
Kept thinking, I hope that son of a bitch doesn't lean across the table and get a hold of my hair and just go, what? It would have been justified.
Shaw's been planning to beat your game for months. He's just been waiting for you to cheat him so he can clip you.
Who do you think you're talking to, Aaron boy? Nobody sets me up.
Everything a confidence man does is build confidence, basically, to make the mark feel secure, to engage his trust, to make him feel like what he's doing is foolproof, that it's all taken care of, it's bulletproof, he's going to make a ton of money.
What do you think Shaw would do to me if he knew I was telling you this?
And to put any kind of doubt to rest.
Okay.
And whatever the confidence man has to do that, he does. And most of it, again, is through just knowing the mark, knowing what makes the mark comfortable, what the mark will believe, what the mark won't believe, what the mark's areas of expertise are, where he's knowledgeable, where he's not so knowledgeable. But mostly what kind of things will win his trust, his confidence.
I don't know what to do with this guy, Henry. He's an Irishman who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and doesn't chase dames. He's a Grand Knight in the Knights of Columbus, and he only goes out to play faro. Sometimes plays 15 or 20 hours at a time, just him against the house.
George Roy Hill had a habit, either while he was thinking, or if he had a problem, or whatever, he would be doing this. And I thought, One day during the rehearsal, I was sitting in a chair next to him, and the stage door opened, and Robert Shaw came limping in, walked over, and he said, right away, he said, "Look, no money involved. I'm very sorry. This is all my fault. I was playing handball, and I've sprained my ankle it's very bad. And you put another actor in, it's okay with me. You know, and no money involved." And George Roy Hill went, he said, "Walk over there." And Robert Shaw limped over. He said, "Now come back." Shaw turned around, came back to where we were sitting, and George Roy Hill said, "Okay, that's the way we'll play it." And that's why Shaw had a limp in that picture.
Couldn't be around a nicer, more outrageous man than Robert Shaw. And from the get-go, he was like that.
Look at that. He's got his apes with him.
I feel that behavior is everything, particularly on the screen. I mean, if you have great words, good, you know, it's terrific. But it's the behavior that registers. So I approach things through that way. The character tells you what to do. George loved that walk. He would say, "I want you to walk down this hall." And he said, "I want one hip to touch one wall and another hip to touch the other. That's what I want." He just loved the walk, and he'd make me do it. And then Newman would laugh, and they would have me walk up and down.
Capturing the mood, I think, in this film was a question of, no matter what was happening, you always had to add the little bit of that you're in on the con, that you're in on it, that the composer himself knows where this is going, you know what I mean? You had to be a little bit sly.
They'll give you phones, pages, blackboards, and ticket gear. If you want a counter and bar, that's another $1,000.
That's pretty steep, Benny.
The thing that made these cons so extraordinary was the sheer size of the enterprise. I mean, they built fake stock exchanges sometimes. In the States, a fake betting parlor. Have the fake FBI come in at the end. One of the reasons why I took so much time at the beginning to set everything up is so that you could see how they built all the things up and how it was possible to do that in the 30s and 40s in a big urban situation like Chicago, where now it would be impossible to do that without attracting all the wrong kind of attention. But in the 30s and 40s, it was not only possible, but it was done all the time.
You ever played the wire, Curly?
The roper long ago. I can shell, markboard, anything you want. Me specialty is an Englishwoman.
All right, Curly. We got a rack of suits over there. Pick yourself out a nice tweed one.
That's all right. I got all my own stuff.
It was like really putting on a stage play, really. It was a matter of casting. You had to get the right guys to play the right parts. You had to bring them in at the right times. It had to be choreographed. It had to be well thought out. It had to be well acted.
Chanson's where you want to have your money.
Great tip you handed me, kid. Just give him time. Nice work, Erie. He loves you.
This thing was about a con from the very beginning. The hustle in this, this thing demanded a whole army, for crying out loud. It wasn't just one guy that arranged for a couple of meetings and a few phone calls. You had to create a whole city almost.
Gondorf, the Newman character, was basically the director of the play.
That's it, fellas.
When he finally finds out that Snyder the detective is after Hooker, he figures out a way to use him within the con to help get rid of the mark.
Just won't learn, will you? I just come in here, I teach you stuff that maybe 5 guys in the whole world know.
There's not only the very strict steps that they go through in a con, but there's also the improvisation that occurs when they need to solve a problem that they didn't anticipate.
Christ, they'll probably miss you and hit me.
FBI. Special Agent Polk would like a few words with you.
When I came up with the idea of the false FBI guys, Polk,
Sit down and shut up, will you? Try not to live up to all my expectations.
that really solved a lot of problems for me. That's what really allowed me to both continue to con the audience and to play out some